For today's webinar, we are going to be going through the property and evidence module in ARMS, the property and evidence management, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to be going through the setup, the data entry, and the reporting of the property side of ARMS. My name is Devin Fowler, and I am going to be the host of the webinar today. You're looking at my screen right now, and I'm going to be going through the presentation side of it to where you guys can see it. I've got Jason Worth here too. He is going to be helping out with the Q&A portion of the webinar near the end. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. So first thing that I want to show you guys with the property and evidence side of ARMS is the setup of it. You can't do anything with your property and evidence until you have set it up in the system. So I'm going to go through that and kind of talk about the way that you can use the property and evidence module going through here. So first thing we'll want to do, I'm at the ARMS mobile home screen right here, and I'm going to go down to the setup gear and click on that. All right, so in here, I am going to find, my first place is going to be the system defaults. I can always come up and hit here to go to just application and security and go to system defaults. Now this is a new look for the setup menu. Your menu may look different than from what I'm looking at right here. This is going to be what comes in a newer update. So count yourself lucky, you're getting a sneak peek. But all of the buttons will remain the same. So we're still going to go into system defaults right here. And in the system defaults, I'm going to come over to my tabs over on the side, and I'm just going to go to the Property and Evidence tab. There's not much you really have to do in here. Most of you guys have probably already set this up whenever you first became ARMS customers. But the two things that I do want to point out in here are going to be the auto assign number and the number formatting. So you can see I have mine set up to be year, month, and then a number. That's why it shows 2021, May, and then 0001. Now, my property is currently on number 76 for this year. So this auto assign number will just make it to where the next one I put in is going to be 2021 050076. And that's all that auto assign does. It just makes it to where you don't have to type in a new property number every time. If you guys have something else at your department and you want to type in your own property number, you can just uncheck that auto assign number box and type it in yourself. All right, so beyond that, I want to go back to my setup menu, and I'm going to go into user access. So let me come down to my user setup, go into user access, and I'm just going to choose my name. And then I'll scroll down a little bit and come over to all of my tabs for user access over here, and I want to go to the Property and Evidence tab. So there's two things to look at in here. You've got Property and Evidence, and if that person has access to it, access to even view it, if they have the option of adding a piece of property to like a case report or a CAD event, and then modifying. So if they have the permission to modify that piece of property in a case or a CAD event. And then below that, you've got the property clerk. So property and evidence right here is going to be mostly officers adding in evidence to a case, or if you're doing lost and found, someone being able to add that to a case or a CAD event. And then property clerk is the person who is in charge of being able to check in and check out that property. The way it works is an officer will bring a piece of property, or maybe a dispatcher will have a piece of property brought to them. They'll put it into a CAD event or a case, and then that'll be kind of the property intake. And then a property clerk will be the one that can check it into, say, a property room or a property bin or any kind of location where a piece of property would be stored. And we'll get more into that when we get to the code list, which is actually what we're looking at next. So you've got all of that. You've also got the CAN export data to CSV, and we'll look at that once we get to the property section. But this is where you set up a user with whatever access you want them to have. So we'll go back to the setup menu, and we're going to go into the code list here. If you've never seen the code list, we've got it split up into category and subcategory. And the category is just every module of ARMS, basically. So we're looking for property and evidence. Let me scroll down, and I've got property and evidence right here. And then the subcategory is going to be the actual code itself. So there's a ton of different codes in here. There are 6 that I want to look at specifically with you guys. So the first one is property type. We'll click on that. And this is just going to be the type, exactly what it says, type of property that you are looking at, what you want the officer to choose whenever they're putting in a property type. So whether it's a stolen automobile or a damaged clothes and furs or a damaged laptop or something like that, you're going to want to put in the property type right here. One other thing, if you are using NIBRS, you can click on that and you can take whatever your specific description is. It might not match perfectly up with a NIBRS description, but then you can translate it to that too. Mine are all set up to just match it perfectly. All right, other than property type, the next one is going to be the property description. So let me come here. And this is going to be kind of the same thing. This is just based off of the exact NIBRS one. So there's no linking to this. This is where the NIBRS side is coming in. But you've got the property type, and then we'll want to do property category as well. And property type and category go kind of hand in hand. You'll see whenever you're putting in a piece of property, it's going to ask you for the category, and it's going to ask you for the type. So like I was saying with the last one, we had automobile. So you have to put what is it in relation to the case. It could be a vandalism, so it could be damaged automobile. It could be stolen, so it would be stolen automobile. Or it could be drugs, narcotics, anything like that, and that could be considered evidence. And then with lost and found, that can be found or just safekeeping. So category and type go pretty hand in hand with each other. Now, beyond that, some other fields that I want you to know about are going to be related to where you are putting the property, so where it is located. And the first one, kind of going down the process, is the property intake location. So right now, I've got mine set up with some basic lockers, intake lockers. So I've got intake locker number 1, 2, and 3. This is where if an officer has any kind of evidence, they can put it in an intake locker. And then later on, the property clerk will be able to go to that locker and put it in the property room, property vault, anything like that. So after that, intake location, we're going to go to property stored at. This is what I was just talking about, where a property clerk would then take it from the intake location to the property room, a property refrigerator, a property room vault, whatever works for your department. And then in those property rooms, you can also have location bins. So if you have a room and you have, 10 bins full of property, to kind of use ARMS to keep track of where everything is, you would have the property stored at, and then the property location bin. So bin 1, 2, and 3. And that's what I've got in mind. If you have more, you just make it kind of work for your department. All right, and the last one is going to be the property destination. So what this is if, for the example we're using today, we're going to be using drug equipment. So if an officer has drug equipment from a case, they put it in the intake location. The property clerk goes and grabs that drug equipment and puts it into the property room, maybe in the property room in location bin 2. Then property destination is if your department needs to check that property out to a location. So they check it out to maybe labs to get tested or to a court for a trial or something like that. So it would be checked out to there, and then whenever it comes back, the property clerk would check it back into the ARMS system. So this property destination is going to be anywhere where that property could go out of the department. All right. So that is it for the setup. So, go into the system defaults, make sure you have auto assign or your number formatting is how you want it to be. In user access, you want to make sure that your users have access to add and modify property. And then also, if you have a property clerk, you want them to have that checkbox to be able to be the property clerk within ARMS. And then in the code list, you want to pay attention to the property type, property category, the intake location, property stored at, and then location bins and property destination. All right, so that is all for this setup. Let's go back to our home screen, and we are going to look at the actual data entry into there. Now, you can add property to a CAD event. I'm going to go through adding a piece of property just to case management. CAD, it works pretty much the same. There is a property button at the top of the CAD screen. So if you want to add it to a CAD event, just click on that property button and fill out the information for that piece of property. For a case, let's jump in. And we'll come to this case right here. And I'm just going to use one that I've already got. I know I added drug equipment to it yesterday. I'm just going to add another one to it today. So we've got our case. We're going to come down to properties. Like I said, I've already got one in here. I'm going to click to just add another one. So I'm in here. I'm going to click to add new because searching won't get me anything because it's not already in the system. We're going to go to the person and business involved. I'm going to say that this Mary Markison is the one that had it. And then property category is going to be evidence. And one thing I do want to point out there is you'll notice as I change the property category, that is going to determine what fields I have to fill out. Because I'm in evidence right now, and there's a lot of fields that you would want to fill out for evidence to make sure you got everything in there. If I change this to just safekeeping, then a lot of those fields go away because for safekeeping, you don't have to put NIBRS information. You don't have to put a lot of other information in there. And it changes as you go through them. But we'll go back to evidence. And then for property type, it's going to be drug narcotic equipment. Right there. All right. And for mine, I've got it set up to where it just maps to the correct NIBRS side. So if you are reporting NIBRS, you can see evidence tracks to seized and drug narcotics tracks to that as well. All right, so here you've got the property number, date found. I'll go ahead and put that as just today. And then you've got a lot of other information in here. A lot of it is pretty self-explanatory. Lab number, if you're putting it in a specific lab. The serial number that's on the item if you have it. Quantity, make, model, model number. It all depends on what piece of property you're looking at with what information you can add. So I don't have a value for this since it's drug equipment, but what I do have, and kind of what we talked about before, the intake location and intake officer. So I'm the officer on this case. I am getting this equipment and I'm putting it into intake locker number 1. The intake date automatically fills out. And then you've got review date here also. If you are using Notification Manager, you can actually set up some users to get an email on the review date of the property if they need to review it and see if it should be destroyed or relocated or whatever it needs to be. So you can set it up for people to get an email on that specific date. All right, and then for the description, I'm just going to put in something, a drug equipment. So let's just do a heroin syringe. And I've already got a crack cocaine pipe on this. So beyond that, you can come up here. You've also got to check a tab for NCIC, bicycle info, and then also photos and media. If you come here, it'll ask you to save first, so we'll hit OK. But like I said, you can come here to either add photos. If I clicked on this it would open up the File Explorer on my computer so that you could pick a photo to put on there. Or if you are using ARMS Mobile on an iPad or an iPhone, or sorry, a tablet or a smartphone, you can go to the website and you'd be able to click on this photo and actually take a picture of the piece of property and add it to ARMS right here. And one important thing to note, if you do take a picture of that property, it will not save to your device. It'll go straight from when it was taken straight onto the ARMS server to save there. So you don't have to worry about this saving to your device at all. All right, so we've got our information in here. Let's go ahead and save. So now we've got our piece of property added to our case. And now I want to go to the property side to show you what it would look like for a property clerk to be handling this. So let me go to my home screen, and I'm going to go to property right here. And you can see it automatically gives me the last 10 pieces of property that have been added to the system. You can come up and search if you know the property number or case number or CAD number. If you know the date entered, make, model, any of this information, you can come up here and search for it too. You can also see that since I am a property clerk, I've got the property check in, check out. This is where that property barcode scanner and printer comes in. So I could come to this heroin syringe, and if you do have questions on setting up the scanner and printer for property, just reach out to us, support@arms.com, and we can help you with which ones to purchase and which ones to use. But if you do have those set up, you can come to the piece of property, hit print, and then you would click print label. It would then pop up a new screen with the actual property label, with a barcode and the information for that piece of property. You'd then be able to print that out on a label maker, and then put that on this piece of property. Then whenever you come into the property tab like we just were, you can come up to property check in, check out, just scan the barcode and hit search. So that way it kind of makes it so you don't have to search for it in there. You just scan the barcode and it automatically pulls up that piece of property for you. Other than that though, you can also just go to that piece of property, even if you don't have a barcode scanner or printer. And you can come in and you've got an actions button up here. So from here, you can check in, and then all the other ones are grayed out right now. That's because currently this piece of property is in the intake location, and the property clerk needs to check it into the actual property room. So moving it from the intake locker to wherever in the property room. So if we click check in, it'll give us some information here, who it's being returned by. It's being returned by me and being returned to, we'll just say I'm returning it to Jimmy Jones. We'll say he is the property clerk. Again, you can update the review date right here if your notification manager is set up, so you can have a user get an email about this piece of property. And then we've got our two fields that we've already talked about today, the property stored at and location bin. So here, I can choose, let's just do property room. I'm storing this in the property room, putting it in location bin 1. You can add some check-in notes here. Checking in heroin syringe, if I can spell that right. There we go. And I will want to click the checkbox right here to say that I am checking this piece of equipment in. So I'll check this in. All right, and now I have this in the system. You can run reports that we'll look at in just a little bit and see what all evidence is checked into your department, what all is in the ARMS system as checked in. So next, I want to show you some other ones. Now that I've checked it in, all of these other ones are able to be clicked on. You've got checkout, which we've talked about is checking out and sending to a court or labs or something like that. You've got relocation, release, and destroy. I want to relocate this. So this one's pretty simple. I don't want it in the property room. I want it in the property vault now, and I want it in bin 3. So just moving it over there, I want to check the box to relocate this one and hit relocate. All right, so it has been relocated at this point. I can come up to actions, and now I've relocated it, but I want to check it out. So this is a heroin syringe. I want to send it to the labs to get it checked out and see if it is. So released by, let's change that to Jimmy Jones, since Jimmy Jones is the parking clerk, and then released to me. The only reason my name popped up in there is because I'm doing this right now. I'm logged in as Devin Fowler doing the release. If I've checked this into Jimmy Jones, then he would probably be the one that is logged in releasing it. All right, so checkout type, I'm going to put lab, and then checkout destination, I'll put Bismarck Labs. And I'll put in some notes, testing the syringe. So we'll check the box and hit checkout. Oh, and I got to put the estimated return date. I estimate they'll return it next week, next Wednesday. So checkout. It prints out a little report for you, a receipt for that checkout. And if you don't need that, you can just ignore it. So now I want to just go down to this chain of custody right here. This is going to show us what all has gone on with this piece of property. So we've got the intake where it was taken into locker 1. It was checked into property room, location bin 1. It was relocated to the property room vault in bin 3. And now it's been checked out to Bismarck Labs. So you can always come to this chain of custody, and you can also come up and print a chain of custody report just showing what all has happened with this piece of property. All right, so let's go back up to general info, and I am going to go ahead and check this back in real quick. We'll say they got done at the lab very quickly. I am giving it back to Jimmy Jones. We are putting it back into vault bin 3. Testing is done. Check the box and check in. Now let's say that we are done with this piece of property. We've done everything we want to with it, and there's nothing else we need to do. I'm going to go ahead and destroy this syringe. So we'll go to destroy. And before I do that, I'm sorry, I wanted to show you also, you can go to release. So if this was some kind of found property or something like that, and you put it in the system, release would make it to where you can release it to just anyone. So I don't know, Barbara Jones. It's just a text field that you can type out and release this to them. It'll print out a release form as well, a receipt for that person and for you, that it has been sent off to Barbara Jones. But for this one, I want to destroy it. I'll come to destroy. I can put notes, being destroyed for drugs. Hopefully your notes are better than mine. And this will come, I'm going to check the box to destroy this and hit destroy. It will let you know this is irreversible. Once you destroy this piece of property, it is going to be shown as being destroyed in the system fully. And we'll hit yes to proceed. And I'm sorry, I'm just now seeing the messages in the chat. I can see that Jason's kind of answering those through. We'll get to those in the Q&A. I'll jump through and see if there's anything still missing or that I can show you through here. And we'll do that then. So we have destroyed this piece of property. Let's go back to the property tab. And the last part of this webinar that I want to show you is the reporting side of it. So if you want to report any kind of information elsewhere, or just pull reports for your own department to know this information. The first one, and one of the easiest ones, is this to CSV button. A CSV is like an Excel spreadsheet. So using whatever you've searched for down here or whatever you put into your search up here, you can hit to CSV and it'll just download a file for you with all of the information and data headers that are down here. So if I change this to property type and I just wanted to see drugs, narcotics, I could put that in, changes it to 14 items, and I can put all 14 of those into one CSV file so that I can just look at it all in an Excel spreadsheet. And if anyone needs it, I could send that Excel spreadsheet to them. Other than that, you can also come up to reports here. And if we click on that, you've got a couple reports in there. Again, I want to show you that's going to be in your property section. You can go right next to that check-in, check-out, and click on reports. Here you've got a couple of them. You've got the property status report, so I can click on that. And in here, I can do the custody status. So we just destroyed one. Let me try just searching for any destroyed. So you can see right here, I've got these two that I had that crack cocaine pipe on there, and that one I destroyed yesterday. And you can click on it and it'll bring it straight to you. Same thing for the one we did today. If I click on this one, it'll open it up in a whole nother window. All right, let's go back to the reports. Another one I wanted to show you is just this officer submitting one. You can see there's a ton of other ones. So if you do want to see property stored at, if you just want to see everything stored in a specific location, or if you want to see everything stored in a specific location bin, you can do that. But I'm going to go to officer submitting and find my name. And again, this will show you all of the ones that have been submitted by me. So these two up at the top are those two drug equipments that we looked at before. Okay, and then beyond just those reports within property right here, you can also create your own reports in Report Center. Let me quickly go over there. We'll click on the octopus and go to Report Center over here. And we'll come into property evidence. You've got some canned reports in here, like a chain of custody report, evidence inventory report if you want to pull that. This actually allows you to go through and just see all items or a random 50 or a random 100 if you're needing to do some kind of evidence inventory audit. And then we'll come down to custom reports. And this is where you can just create your own kind of report in the system. If you have any questions on Report Center, we have other webinars on that as well. But this kind of shows you how you can change a filter if you want to filter by a certain type. If you only want to see drug narcotics, you can filter by that. If you only want to see certain things, and then if you don't even want all the fields in here, you can come to the fields and say, I don't want to know the incident number, I don't want to know the serial number or color, make, and model. And you can just run that and it'll pull up your information there. All right, and you can also save that and run it. I've got one saved in there right now. Okay, so let me go back to the main screen here. I'm going to go back to the home screen. And I know that was a lot of information to take in. I hope it helped you guys out with some things you were wanting to do with property and evidence, or if you had any questions on it. And speaking of questions, we are going to move over to that side of the webinar. So if you guys have any questions, I want to repeat what I said at the beginning. You can unmute. Or not unmute, sorry. You can go down to the, move your mouse around on the screen right here and click participants down at the bottom. And that'll open up a sidebar where you'll have a raise hand button. And then you can raise that hand and then we'll unmute you and let you ask your question. Otherwise, if you don't want to raise your hand or if you don't want to unmute, you can type into the chat over on the side, which I see a couple of you know how to do.
I'm doing work, Devin. I am doing
I'm
so
seeing,
much work in this chat right now.
I'm seeing that. Um,
Ooh.
so if you do have a question and want to put it in that chat, just type out the word question for us so that we know that you are typing. So just type out question and send it so that we know that a question is coming. And that way we don't end the webinar before then. Also, if you do have any questions outside of this, you can also email support@arms.com or call 1-800-776-6783. Jason, you have probably been reading this a little bit more. Can you tell me if we've
A
answered
little
all of
bit,
them? If
yeah,
there's
a
any,
little bit.
if there's a
I
couple?
want to hit on a few things that I saw in here. Um, so one of the questions we've got that I haven't answered yet was regarding a customer that is keeping some of their property information in the property module of ARMS and some of it in paper within a different entity in their department. I think in this user's case, the chief is managing a lot of this from in a paper format, and kind of what does that mean for their property chain? Now, I will preface this answer with the big remark of I'm not a police officer. But from my understanding, um, your chain of custody is showing that, every way that this piece of property was handled from point A to point B is documented. Um, my preference, if I was an arms administrator at a department, would be that all that information be documented in one area. I'm not sure how any sort of auditing or court process would look at if I was doing intake in arms and property transfers on pen and paper, maybe moving from one bin to the other in another format. For one, that strikes me as just pretty much impossible to keep up with. And it's also not easily reportable. Keeping an electronic format, obviously I'm going to advocate for you to keep all the information in ARMS. So that's a done deal. But having an electronic format in ARMS is going to give you that ability of what Devin was showing to be able to custom build some reports, print out logs, and not have to really hunt for data in this database or on that piece of paper to pull it all together if you need to put together a chain of custody report. So that would be my answer to that one. Lee had a couple questions about some notifications, which I agree, Lee. It's something we're looking at, being able to send out notifications regarding property in different ways. But one thing he hit on that I wanted to ask, I guess, kind of the group at large a little bit, would be the lost and found aspect. We have a lot of questions that come in about storing lost and found, less important property in ARMS, as well as evidence, as well as stolen property, anything like that. Uh, would there be a lot of trying to think of the right word? As far as this kind of small snapshot of our user base that we have here, what do y'all feel about having a sort of a separate lost and found section of ARMS compared to the rest of property?
And here, probably the easiest way to kind of do that is get a raise of hands.
Yeah, well, I was going to say just in chat, or because I think somebody already has their hands raised to ask questions, but in chat, just feel free, send me some comments. That way we can kind of review that. That's one of the things I'm looking at right now, actually. And that kind of reminded me when Lee brought that up, is looking more into the lost and found area. Because that is something a lot of our departments deal with a lot, is lost and found. So I think it's something that we could probably put some time into.
Yeah, and I'd also say, I mean, if it's something that you guys think is really worthwhile and you would use it, send us an email with kind of like your thoughts on it and how you would want to use it. You've probably seen, if you've ever sent in an enhancement request, we keep track of all those. So the more thoughts and ideas we get from our customers, the more we can make them work for everyone in ARMS. So it's always worthwhile, and we welcome it.
All right, so I'm seeing some pretty positive response there.
No, I think it looks to me like everyone hates it. I think we should scrap the whole thing and get rid of it.
Now, I'll throw one more thing at you. Make the rest of you do as much work typing as I had to do while Devin was talking. If anybody is using a lost and found system that's separate from ARMS, we have a couple customers I know of that are. So if you have an outside software that you're not or that's not ARMS, that you're using to document lost and found, let us know. That's one of the things I'm looking at in this process is, of course, unapologetically stealing things from other vendors. So if y'all can give me some ideas of some of the things that you're looking at as far as, yeah, I know Oklahoma, I know y'all use Beast a lot. Looking at some of those features to know what we need to incorporate if we do go that route. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because that Lee's comment about storing different types of property kind of reminded me of that.
So I will say we're gonna have to kind of wrap this up real quick. We're about 10 minutes over schedule for this, so we do have a record of this chat. I'm gonna go through and just make sure to check and see that we've responded to everyone.
I think I got everything. I'm really sorry if I missed
Okay.
it. There was a lot of questions, but I think I got to just about everything there.
Yeah, I'll make sure and go through that, and also just kind of keep track of everyone that is interested in the lost and found. And if you do have any questions or anything beyond what we've talked about today, go ahead and send us an email, support@arms.com, or call 1-800-776-6783. This webinar will be posted this Friday, and you guys will get an email about it. You can see the webinar on our support site, and you can also see it at arms.com/webinars. You'll be able to see that this Friday, and you can go to that website to see all of the past ones as well. All right, other than that, thank you guys very much for joining today, and we will see you guys at the next webinar.
Thank you all for your time.
All right, bye.